Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to Wayne Bennett's Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Bennett, and this is episode 152. It's October the 17th, 2024. It's a cold, brisk fall morning. And today our guest is a local attorney and a community volunteer, and he's running for circuit judge, 14th Judicial District, Mr. Rusty Wooton. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
What's the O stand for in Rusty O. Wooton?
Owen.
Were you named after anyone or?
Actually, I was named after a TV show.
Oh, really?
Back when I was born in 78, there was a TV show. I think he was a detective, and his name was Owen something. And my grandfather on my dad's side's initials are R.O.W. He was Robert Orley Wooton. My grandfather on my mom's side was Roland Otto Wenzel.
Oh.
And, mom and dad, I'm the third of three. It's Robbie, Richie, Rusty. They wanted everything to start with an R, and they decided to make me have their initials. So they just found a name that they liked.
So they got the initials Roe.
Yep.
I remember the first time I ever saw a picture of you. It was you were in the third grade, and it was a newspaper story that at Institute Grade School they did something, and you were participating in it. And I said immediately, I was coaching football at Park, and I said, "Oh, we got another Wooton coming up here pretty soon," which was a good sign because your brother Robbie and Richie had been fantastic ball players for us and with the successful teams that we had. And then I saw another picture. I started kind of following you a little bit when you were in the sixth grade. And you had made some comments. You guys had done a Martin Luther King program, and you had made some positive comments about that movement. Then there was it Merchant Adjustments that you played for in basketball at the Y, or Merchants?
You go to the Y, you just get placed on a team. I'm not sure which.
Well, I know.
I played for the Banker Raleigh was my first team.
Okay.
And, I had my coach, P.K. Ellison, and my Uncle John, and Danny Smith. And, before that, it was Pat Forgill, and I played with Gene Neighbors and Matt Forgill on those teams. And
wow.
When they all left, I became the old man on the team.
Now, I know Andy Colasurto, you played with him that much, and then pretty good ball player. You made the All-Stars, and Richard Colasurto was the coach, wasn't he? And but I kind of follows you. But your whole family was very athletic on the Wooton side that I know of. I graduated with your Uncle John, and John played three sports. He was an outstanding basketball player, played at WVU later, and then I actually taught Fred over at Woodrow Wilson when he was there in the 70s. And, of course, I knew Eddie and Tom got into officiating quite a bit. But a very athletic family, so you didn't have a lot of choice but to go into sports. Your dad was in sports also.
Dad was a halfback through high school. I don't think he ever reached the levels that John did, but Dad was a good athlete, and from my understanding, this is stories that I've heard, that my grandfather moved down here from, I think, Indiana, because at that time, pro baseball was, basically a lot of little towns had their teams or whatnot, and he was actually recruited by the Mines to come down and play for their company team, and, they got him a job to work and be able to play, so.
Oh, yeah. The Raleigh County League and then the Southern West Virginia baseball, those guys, they did that a lot. Mm-hmm. And they would bring in these guys that were pretty good ball players. That's how you got a job. If you could play ball, you'd had a job. And it was big time for quite a while. And your grandmother, Boots, was they didn't have a lot of sports for women back then, but she was a pretty good athlete, too. I know she ended up being a great golfer later.
She was a great golfer. And, that was one of our traditions was, we'd play football on Friday night, and Mama and I would go out golfing Saturday morning. It was a way to to not think about the game the night before, because you're on the golf course, you got to think about your next shot.
Yeah.
And so it was a great way. It was a tradition that I had all through high school. And
Well, that's kind of interesting because I'd heard you say great athletes have short memories or something like that. They don't think about the last game, or you think about the one that's coming up. But now you played did you play for the Southwest football in the midget league?
I did play Southwest football, and I had great coaches. We had Cedric Robinson, Larry English, Alfonso Cross, Randy Snuffer, and David Allen were the 5 main coaches. And of those, on my team, the only one that had a son was David Allen. Chris Allen played with me.
Uh-huh.
The rest of the coaches that were there were just there to coach.
For the sport, yeah.
And, I think by the time I got to Woodrow, 13 of our starters played with me at Southwest. And, we were just taught the fundamentals that you had to earn your position. And, I think that was a great way to learn.
Yeah, the guys you mentioned are all a good bunch of guys for sure. Yeah. And I left your 9th grade year? Or?
No, you left before I got there.
Okay.
And Nelson Spencer was the coach. And then he got a promotion or something, became a principal, and had to leave Park midway through summer practice. And you came in at that point.
Yeah. Nelson, I think he got hired as the athletic director at Woodrow or something. And I actually wanted to go into real estate business, and I decided it'd be a good time, and I was going to leave him a good team. I didn't want to leave him with a team that wasn't going to be successful. And but he had to get out quick. The junior high, you were in All County for Park, and you played basketball for Park. It's a funny story about your mother. Your mother was an artist, or is an artist.
She is an artist.
And we were playing a football game, and Dave Allen usually taped the ball games. He did that for years for us. And one particular game, he had to be out of town, and so we was trying to find somebody that would film the ball games, and your mother volunteered. And it was one of those September, October Thursdays, and a nice day and everything. And so instead of, she did tape all the plays, but she in between the plays, where normally the guys would cut the camera off. She was filming the clouds and making comments about the formations and the clouds and the colors, and shooting the landscape and the scenery behind the school and making comments. And so when we started reviewing the film after the ball games, instead of taking about 25 minutes, it took about an hour and a half. But we learned a lot about clouds and stuff. But she was nice enough to do it. I think I still got that tape, really.
I can remember, she filmed just about every game we had, and she still has them somewhere, and she's trying to convert them over to DVD when she gets the times. But I knew where that was going as soon as she started saying, Mom filmed the game for you.
Yeah, but Dave was back the next week. So, yeah. But when you went to Woodrow, that was a good bunch of kids, that young athletes that you mentioned and had played with, and I was lucky enough to have coached those guys. But now let's go back just a second. That basketball team at Park, you had Robert Akers and Clater.
We had Robert Akers, Kenny Clater, Nate Lucas, Larry Brown. Josh Murphy was a year behind us, but he was a very solid ball player. Nate Moore, did I say? That was
a pretty good basketball team.
We had an excellent basketball team.
Yeah. But now when you got to Woodrow, you were one of the leading tacklers on Woodrow Wilson's team, but you didn't have some good luck. You broke a collarbone or something in basketball, didn't you?
No, on the first quarter, into the first quarter of our first round of playoffs, I broke. Oh no! I separated my shoulder.
Oh, okay.
My 10th grade year, right before the last practice before our first game, I dove after a loose ball and landed and separated my shoulder.
And then later, you guys got into the playoffs, which is everybody's dream to do that, and then you got hurt.
I broke my leg.
Wow. In the first quarter?
It was right at the end of the first quarter. Quarterback broke up the middle. I came from the outside, and Robert Wooton came from the other side. He was the cornerback. I was the outside linebacker. I caught the quarterback, and as I was making the tackle, Robert Wooton dove, and my leg got rolled underneath his.
Wow.
And it broke my fibula, which is the non-weight bearing bone in the leg. And
that was your senior year?
That was my junior year.
Oh, that was your junior year?
My junior year.
So you came back and played the next year?
I did.
Okay. I didn't know for sure. Now you were number 44. Where did that come from? Did you pick that, or they just assigned it, or?
44 was my number from as far back as I can remember. We were Redskin fans growing up, and we really loved John Riggins. If you know, Richie wore 44 as well. Robbie wore 44 one year just to take it from Richie. But, we just loved Riggo and, the way he played. And
Well, you can't be a bad guy if you're a Redskins fan, because it broke my heart when they changed the name, but I still follow them. And I have been fortunate enough to see some of their home games live, and I followed them back when Bobby Mitchell played for them back in the '60s when he came from Cleveland over, and but Riggins was he was a horse when he was playing. In the basketball you played. Summer basketball. What was football your favorite sport, or basketball?
It was pretty even, be honest. I wanted to play both. I think I was naturally better at football. Basketball is a lot easier to do pickup games. It's hard to get a bunch of people out there to play football. And I don't really have a preference between the two.
What kind of music did you listen to when you was in high school?
Everything. I grew up listening to the Beatles, the Stones. I listened to the music of the time, which was a little bit of grunge music, a little bit of rap music.
What do you listen to now?
About the same. Try to teach my kids some of the older stuff. My daughter loves the Beatles.
That's kind of funny because we had a grandchild that just became a Rolling Stones fan, and I said, "In her 80s, they're older than me. I'm your grandpa."
There's you got to admire talent.
Yeah,
some of those songs were great, and they were talented musicians.
Now you graduated from Woodrow in '96, and then WVU in 2001, and then law school in 2004. Did you always want to be an attorney?
From the time I was in 4th or 5th grade, my dad was served in the House. He first elected 2 years before I was born. Then he served in the Senate for, I think 28 years total between the House and the Senate. And, all my life he was on the campaign trail. And I was always too young to stay at home most of the time when he was going out on the campaign trail. And I'd go out with him. And the amount of people that would come up, it didn't matter where you were, to come up and say, "I just want you to thank your dad for us for what he did." And, you'd be at a coal camp one minute and then at a coal manufacturing plant, with the coal operators the next minute. And they're both saying things like, he really helped settle this and get this done. And, most of the time it was just compromises. But to have people come up to you and say, "I just want to thank him for what he's doing for us. We really appreciate that." That has a big impact on who you want to be as you grow up. And, as I said, from 4th or 5th grade on, that's what I wanted to do. And I'd spend a lot of time in the cars talking with Dad, going from one event to the other, or taking him down to Charleston. And he was like, "Well, if you want to be a good, I decided I wanted to be a governor." He was like, "If you want to be a good governor, you need to be a good legislator. To be a good legislator, you should probably serve in both the House and Senate. You need to understand the laws, and to be an effective, you need to understand the rules. The rules are different than the House than they are for the Senate. and as a lawyer, you'll be able to navigate those a little better, and you'll be more effective. And
that makes good sense. Your dad tried to orientate you. You were interested, and so he was trying to orientate you. And I had read that story that you had written about the same thing you was telling about. It was a beautiful story. I mean, your dad had the patience to introduce you to certain things and what steps you should take. And then when you were younger, he along with some other local students had taken you to Charleston to be a page and kind of learn.
I paged a lot. After I did it a couple times, I really got into it. And, while I was in undergrad at WVU, I took a full year or a full semester as an intern for the legislature.
Really?
And, I got to sit on the House floor. I got to talk to my delegates' constituents. I had Sally Sussman was the delegate I was assigned to. But the whole Raleigh County delegation kind of took me under their wings, and I became good friends with some of the delegates from Parkersburg and Wheeling, and became good friends. Still talk to a lot of them today, and I'd go out to eat with them all the time. And
well, you went to the National Convention too in Los Angeles.
I went to the National Convention in Los Angeles in 2000. I went to the National Convention in New York in 92.
Wow.
Actually got to lead the West Virginia delegation and Pledge of Allegiance one morning.
Wow, that's great. Well, you got to see the Dodger Stadium out at Los Angeles.
I got a hit there. They let us take batting practice.
Wow. But he was taking the time and during your time in law school, you received an award, Rising Star Award?
No. After law school, as a practicing attorney, there's awards and things that you can get. And 3 times I've been rated as a West Virginia super lawyer rising star.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like 3% of the legal population gets voted on that. And,
wow.
it's a big award.
Where did you meet your wife?
First day of law school orientation.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's she from?
She's from South Charleston.
Okay.
What's
her name?
Michelle. It was Elmore.
Okay.
Her family's pretty well-known athletes as well. Her brother is Gay Elmore, was a really good basketball player, went to VMI, led the conference in
Oh, yeah. They were on the summer basketball $1 million competition.
Yeah.
Still are.
That's my nephew, John Elmore, and his brother, Odd Elmore. And, they're the ones that started that team. And
yeah, well, the old man went to VMI too, didn't he?
My father-in-law went to WVU. He played basketball at WVU.
Oh, okay.
He was 2 years behind Jerry West.
Okay.
Or maybe 3 years. I think he was a freshman Jerry West's senior year.
Yeah. And you have 2 children. What's their names?
Caitlin is my daughter. She's 15. And I've got a son. His name is Robert Ottmer Wooton. I kept the ROW. I took the middle name of my dad and the middle name of my father-in-law.
And Caitlin is, I see her at all the ball games. And she does things with a baton. How did she learn that?
Well, my wife was the feature twirler at University of Maryland in undergrad.
Oh.
And during her 3rd year of law school, they asked her to try out for the team. Some of the girls that were there were students of hers, and they said, "Why don't you come out and try out?" So she tried out, and she made the team. So she was featured twirl at WVU as well, her 3rd year of law school. But she competed, from the time she was little. She competed in baton competitions, which it's a different world than field competitions. But
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I've seen some of it on the internet and some of the things that they do. Now, does your wife practice law?
She does. I think she works at Jackson Kelly down in Charleston. Works primarily from home, but she works down there. She's, I think, like the co-managing member of the real estate division for Jackson Kelly.
Uh-huh. Now, your son, I know you've paid your dues as far as coaching. You've coached him in Little League Baseball. You've coached him to Y, and is he going to be an athlete?
I think they're both going to. I coach my daughter as well. She's a really good softball player. She was learning soccer, but had to kind of, as you get a little older, you got to kind of start taking away some of the sports. But she loves softball. She loves track. I'm really hoping that she'll be able to make the 4x400 team and be able to run with Maya, who's her cousin. I think that would be neat.
Yeah, they had a good 4x4 last year.
Yeah. And, my son is involved with baseball. He's liking basketball. He loves soccer. He's really good at that as well. Weird situation where he's a big kid, but he's, a year younger than, or sometimes 2 years younger than all the kids he's playing with most of the time.
Yeah. Now, you ran for an office in 2016, didn't you?
I ran for judge in 2016.
Ran for judge, okay. And I know you didn't win, but how were you pleased with as far as getting out there and learning about the situation?
I was very pleased. It was kind of a last minute decision. There were 10 people running. Dad had decided that he was going to run for judge at that point earlier in the year, so I didn't think about it. And then at the last minute, he decided to run for the Supreme Court in 2016 and said, you ought to go ahead and get out there and get your feet wet. And so I did. And I came in third or fourth. I had a budget of about $3,000. And, I just went out and knocked on doors and talked to people, and it didn't work out for me, but
it's kind of running for a nonpartisan. A judge is a little different than running for a political race, because about the only thing you can say as a judge, well, I'm going to be fair and I'm going to follow the law. And that's about it.
And that's all that you can tell who you are and what type of person you are, and hopefully that gets across to people, and they'll see that you're going to use who you are as part of your decision-making process.
Now, you ran for House of Delegates in 2022?
I did. A lot of people that I respected from over the years, a lot of people that I met during my Herndon Fellowship and stuff had called me and asked me to put my name in. And I explained to them that I'm running for judge in 2 years, but if y'all want me to do this, I'll give it a try and see how it goes. And it was a close race between me and my opponent, but unfortunately, I think between both the Republican and the Democratic parties, I think there was about 2,400 votes cast that year. Yeah. In my district, which each district is roughly 17,000 people, and only 2,400 votes, I think, or somewhere around there, came out and voted. It was.
That's kind of the sad part about elections sometimes, the amount of people that can get registered and the amount of people that are registered and then they don't vote. And it's always been, the percentages have been pretty low. Now, your dad served in the legislature for 26 years, I think.
28.
And he's been on the state Supreme Court of Appeals. I think that's kind of interesting because John Hutchison, who is also from back then, I went to high school with John. You got two people on the state Supreme Court of Appeals from the same city. And I mean, that's rare. I mean, very rare.
I would imagine it is. John Hutchison was such a great judge. He was fair, but he was firm. And I think it's something that Dad always wanted to do. I think he had planned on trying to run back in about 2000. But people he respected called and said, hey, look, we really need you to stay where you're at in the Senate.
Sure.
So
now you have been on, besides the coaching at the Y and Little League, you've been on board of directors like the Raleigh County Community Action, Woodrow Wilson Football Hall of Fame. I saw somewhere you were a judge in one of the state civic contests one time or another. Any other places that you've...
In 2017, Governor Justice appointed me to serve on the State Board of Medicine. So I've been doing that for the last 7 years now.
Yeah.
And it's something I thoroughly enjoy. I'm part of the licensing commission or the licensing committee for both doctors. So if you want to get a license, we have to review your files, and I'm also for physician's assistants on their licensing committee.
Now, in the primary of this year, there was a 5-person race, I think, for judge. And all 5 candidates, I don't know all 5 of them, but I know 3 of them, all good guys, and you guys ran a clean race. Nobody jumped after each other or nothing like that. It was just, just here I am. This is what I'm qualified to do, and vote for me. And you actually got 29.5% of the vote.
29.54.
But that wasn't quite enough according to the new law. You had to win by 30% or more. And that'd be a bummer, wouldn't it?
It was hard, but, you just got to pull up your bootstraps and get back out there and try to do it again.
So according to the law, the top 2 in the primary have to run off in the general election. Mm-hmm. And there'll be a lot more people voting in the general election because of the presidential race. And
I would imagine there will be.
Yeah.
There generally is. But.
Yeah. But it's almost like, in my opinion, it's almost like you're starting all over. You got to spend more money. You got to get out there again. You got to get signs up. It's like a double whammy there.
As I said, I enjoy the process. I'm going out, knocking on doors, trying to meet everybody that I can, try to go to as many functions as I can. It's a little bit more difficult because, school sports and stuff are heavily involved right now. So, my son's at the soccer field 5 days a week or 4 days a week right now. And then my daughter's at band practice and so we got to juggle time.
Yeah, they don't have a driver's license. You got to take them. The judge, a circuit judge, not only will try cases, and again, you want to be fair, you want to follow the law, but you also oversee the magistrates and make sure they're doing the job they're supposed to do, advise them. Is that correct?
They are in control, or not control, but they do supervise. Uh-huh. And we've been fortunate though. We've had some terrific magistrates over the years. I think we've got a couple new ones coming in, but I've met those people out in the campaign trail and have full faith that they're going to try to do what's best. And they do get training from the Supreme Court. That provides training for them, and so they're going to have a good founding when they come in. And I think all the judges that are there are more than happy to help, sure, whenever they can. But
now the magistrates don't have to have any kind of law background or anything, so they go to a training, and if they need advice or whatever, they can, under the umbrella of a certain judge, they can ask questions, and that's a good system. I mean, you can't. Yeah. And we have had some great magistrates. A lot of them have had some law enforcement background and have done a real good
Most
job.
of them have had some law enforcement background.
Yeah.
And as I said, they take their jobs very seriously and they try to do what they think's right. And that's about the best you can do with that.
Now you've got about less than a month to actually about 3 weeks before the election, I guess.
19 days.
19 days. And so what do you do now? I mean, besides being on a podcast, what do you do?
As I said, I've been getting out, knocking on doors, probably about 5 or 6 hours a day. knowing that I was going to run for judge, I kind of quit taking cases on about a year and a half ago. I've been working on the cases that I have, but I have been able to free up time to where I can finish up what I have. I don't have a whole lot left. And, I am getting out there and trying to do what I can to meet people. And I don't see any other way than just go knock on doors. And I've had a great experience doing that. People invite you to sit down and they want to talk for about 10, 15 minutes. And they're courteous enough to know, I know you need to get out there and do some more. I just got some questions. And I really enjoy when I get a chance to sit down and talk with them.
Running for office has changed a lot too in the last few years because you have the internet. And back in the old days, they even at the voting day, people would be passing out cards and those kind of things. But now you have the internet, and if you can't get, sometimes when you're knocking on doors, it's hard to get people to come to doors or whatever, or be at home, catch them at home. So you can, the internet's a good tool in that manner. It helps.
I've got some people that are helping me with that. And unfortunately on Facebook, I've gotten caught in, I guess, meta jail. I've done everything they've asked for to be able to send my podcast or my information out. But every time I complete one task, they're like, well, you need to do this now. As I said, I've got people that are working on that and trying to get that squared away.
Was there anything else you'd like to say before we leave?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. As I said, I've been a practicing attorney for 20 years. I've done everything that you'll see come before circuit court judge. I've done criminal, done civil, I've done family law. I've done a lot of real estate disputes, which is the birthplace of civil litigation. I've done everything you can. I've been recognized, as I said, 3 times. I was a West Virginia super lawyer. I've been recognized for the work that I've done. I think this is where God has put me to be able to serve the community. As I said, I originally wanted to go into the legislative and executive branch, but as I started practicing law and saw the impact that a judge has on a community, I think this is where he decided that I needed to be. And so I'm going to go out there and give it my best shot and appreciate any vote that people give me. And I promise that I'll faithfully serve the office as best I can.
Well, you once wrote, "The desire to be of service to my community is a part of who I am." And I think that's a good way to leave it. And I thank you for coming and talking with us. And anybody else out, remember November the 5th is election day, unless you're voting early. Anyone else out there that'd like to be on our podcast, you can contact me at awbennett50@gmail.com, and we'll get you on here. And until next time, remember, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet. God bless you.